Imagine a world where all humans are equal. Skin color, ethnicity, or origins no longer matter. Everyone dances to the same rhythm, sharing a singular joy. Memories are shared. All knowledge is free, and conflict naturally becomes unnecessary. And to you, is that an ideal world? If the answer is yes, then prepare to offer your neck for a bite from the vampires in the movie we are about to introduce. Because as they promise, once you have become a demon, whether you are white or black, it is all the same. But doesn't that also mean we have to discard our individual identity? Could it be that this is also a form of oppression? Perfectly blending supernatural elements with the setting of the United States in 1932, a time when tensions between the white and African American communities were extremely high. Sinners by director Ryan Coogler is a racial work unlike any other. It performs well as entertainment, with scenes of slaughter, bloody gunfights, and steamy romance. But the deeper we dig, the more we find profound commentary on culture, identity, and the true meaning of freedom. Today, let's join Phi Phim to dissect Sinners, one of the biggest surprises of 2025, to decode dozens of metaphors hidden within this work. Taking place over the span of a single day, Sinners follows Smoke and Stark, a notorious pair of twin brothers from Clarksdale, Mississippi. Driven by dreams of wealth, these two veterans of World War I decided to leave their hometown for Chicago to build a career, joining the then infamous Chicago outfit. After wandering for many years, by the time the film begins, Smoke and Stark have returned home wealthy. Using their money to buy back an old manor, the two brothers invest in opening a joint, a social hub for entertainment, music, and dancing for people of color. Everything is well prepared and running smoothly. That night the shop attracts many customers. However, the sublime blues melodies of the guitarist Sammy, Smoke's cousin, accidentally attract an ancient force. They are the vampires, immortal creatures hungry for fresh blood. From here, the joyful night of music turns into a frenzied massacre. With a deliberate, even somewhat slow first-act pace, it is not difficult to see that Sinners wants to depict in detail the difficult lives of the community of color in Mississippi, or more broadly, across America. After the Civil War ended in 1865, with a victory for the Northern Union, led by President Abraham Lincoln, slavery was officially abolished. America then entered the Reconstruction era of the South to protect the rights of newly liberated African Americans. However, from 1877, when federal troops ended their supervision of the South, and self-governance once again fell into the hands of conservative white rulers, often called redeemers, things took a turn for the worse. These people wanted to restore the old order, pushing black people back into a low social status. To do this without violating the Constitution, Southern law enforcement agencies created something called the Jim Crow laws. This name originated from a theatrical character in which a white actor portrayed a person of color speaking in an absurdly clumsy manner. Consisting of extremely harsh laws targeting the African American community, Jim Crow used the motto, "Separate but equal," as a facade for discrimination in all fields. When watching the film, you only need to pay a little attention to understand what kind of society Smoke and Stark are living in. First, at the train station we see the words "white only" at the ticket counters. From schools, waiting lines, transportation and healthcare, to even public water fountains, Jim Crow clearly regulated segregation by skin color. It is also not hard to see the fear in Stark's eyes as he looks around cautiously whenever he encounters Mary, the woman he loves but cannot be with. The reason is simple, because she is white. According to Jim Crow, a man of color was not allowed to let any part of his body touch a white woman, or he would be convicted of indecent intent. Black people were also not allowed to extend their hand first to shake hands with a white person. Even if they ate together, there had to be something blocking the space between them. Just a small mistake, and a person of color could be killed right on the street by the KKK, a paramilitary group advocating white supremacy. They wore white clothes and white hoods, ready to use violence against innocent people. In the film, there's a segment where the old musician Delta Slim tells that his friend once took a sum of money and ran onto a train, only to be lynched by the KKK, which literally means public execution. More crazily, they did so without facing any punishment. In the opening scene, Sammy, the younger brother of the gangster duo, goes out to the fields to pick cotton at dawn, and the whole family has to live in dilapidated wooden houses. Cotton plantations at that time were highly developed, and people of color, despite no longer being slaves, were essentially still victims of exploitation. Accordingly, laborers would rent land from white plantation owners, farm it themselves, and annually pay a certain amount of output to settle their debt. This was known as sharecropping. However, some laborers could never pay off their debts in a lifetime. Not to mention, in the film, we see plantation workers being paid in a type of currency called wooden nickels. These are wooden coins only valid for purchases at the plantation owner's store. This new type of exploitation prevented people of color from saving assets, making them dependent and powerless, while forever remaining in the poor class. Interestingly, in English, there is an idiom, "Don't take any wooden nickels," implying be careful, don't be fooled, and don't trust deals that seem too good. This directly relates to the end of the film, when Smoke realizes that the man who sold him the land belongs to the KKK, and he and his gang are plotting to kill all the people of color in the shop the next morning. Thus, all the hardships, discrimination, and dangers are starkly explored in the film's first act. Every shop, every location, and even the spit full of contempt that the land seller gives to Smoke and Stark bear the mark of the ugly pages of history from an era of conservative prejudice. Director Ryan Coogler slowly takes us through a tour of Mississippi to understand how the people here are living and how painful a racially divided society is, so that when the sun sets and the night at the entertainment joint opens, all the simmering conflicts explode at once through an ancient force called vampires. So why does the fight against injustice by people of color involve vampires? I asked a similar question when the film's second act suddenly introduced Remick, a sharp-toothed demon from nowhere. He just appears, bites anyone he meets, and builds an army of monsters. To analyze the hidden message of this species, we need to look at how they operate. Unlike other monsters, Remick cannot just jump in and bite people. For every house, he needs to be invited in by the owner. Therefore, throughout the film, Remick mainly uses promises and seduction. Recall the scene of his first appearance. The vampire used his white appearance to ask for help from a young KKK couple to save him from Red Indians. We will talk about the reason the Choctaw indigenous tribe was hunting Remick later. After finishing off the white couple, Remick continues to the entertainment joint, introducing himself to Smoke as a person who values equality, to be let in for a drink. Bringing his whole pack, he says he came to contribute his voice. On the first watch, this wolf at the door motif made me think this was surely a satire by Ryan Coogler about the KKK. However, things do not seem that simple. After being bitten, the victim will not only turn into a vampire, but will also possess all the memories of other vampires. This means after biting Mary, and Mary biting Stark, Remick knows all the deepest secrets of this couple. If someone possesses a talent, Remick and other vampires also possess that skill. Hundreds of similar individuals sharing a collective intelligence. By now, you must have realized that although Remick's first two victims belong to the KKK, after being bitten, they no longer look at Smoke and Stark's community as inferior. To put it simply, Remick has created a connection and simultaneously erased discrimination. "This world has ignored you to death," Remick says. "They don't let you grow, they don't let you bond, but we do that together." Leading all his long-toothed brothers to an empty field, Remick performs a visually stunning scene where all the vampires sing and dance together. White people, people of color, men, women, religious or not, no longer have animosity. This party is a bit bloody, but theoretically the vampire has actually created a miniature equal society. Later, we learn that Remick has Irish origins. During the years 1845 to 1852, the United States recorded a massive wave of Irish immigration due to the potato blight destroying the food source. These immigrants also suffered quite a bit of discrimination, doing manual labor and being looked down upon even though they were white. In particular, Irish Catholicism also conflicted violently with American Protestantism. Therefore, I guess the vampire Remick was also once a victim of discrimination, and to be free, he agreed to sell his soul to the devil. Within him is always a desire to make others like himself. However, this is when we flip the problem. A community where every individual is the same also means that each person will have to discard their own identity. Throughout the film, we see Sinners places great emphasis on honoring the traditional values of people of color. The faith, the haunting blues melodies, the free dances of a resilient spirit, all of that creates a unique strength, identity, culture, and history. Smoke's wife says that being a vampire is a curse. The soul is forever trapped in an immortal body. So, is the equality Remick promises truly equality, or is it actually a new, more sophisticated type of oppression that we often call assimilation? Many opinions online suggest that Remick represents many things. He could be the colonialism of powerful nations expanding and assimilating colonized peoples. Some also believe he represents cultural appropriation, large corporations wanting to profit from the identity of minority groups. Revisiting the scene with the appearance of the Choctaw tribe. Just a quick online search will show you that there is a very beautiful friendship between these Red Indians and the Irish. During the potato famine I mentioned earlier, which led to the surge of migration into America, it was the Choctaw tribe at that time that donated money to support the Irish people. You must know that the Choctaw were not wealthy themselves, so this noble gesture is still remembered by the Irish today. From this we can infer that if the Choctaw were hunting Remick, it means he is not an ally. He only claims to be an ally, claiming he will liberate oppressed nations, but in reality, he only sees them as a source of profit. Remick sees the talent, culture, and strength of other communities as something to steal. Throughout the film, all he does is take, and take everything he can. From here, Sinners exposes the vague notion of the line between liberation and appropriation. The community Remick creates is ideal. But if joining this community means discarding traditional values and becoming a different person, metaphorized here by becoming a vampire, is this essentially just another system of oppression? That is something each of us viewers must reflect on for ourselves. Similar to the vampires, the next question I faced when watching Sinners for the first time was, why do we need a pair of twins? Why is it necessary to have two Michael B. Jordans dressed differently? The answer is likely that these two brothers have opposite attitudes toward the struggle. To help you understand, let's go back to the morning Smoke and Stark went shopping. While Smoke took care of essentials like signs, tables, chairs, chefs, etc., Stark and Sammy went to hire musicians. The idea for an entertainment joint for singing and dancing was also Stark's. It can be seen that one is tough and good at business, while the other is more liberal and artistic. Look at how these two bargain. While Smoke always haggles so as not to be at a loss, Stark is quite simple about money. To invite the old musician Delta Slim to play for him, he was willing to pay $40 instead of $20, and even gave him a cold bottle of beer. When the joint opened, Smoke did not agree to let customers pay with wooden nickels. However, Stark let it slide because he felt for the farmers who worked hard all day. This leads to the brothers' differing views on the racial issue. I am not saying Stark is weaker than Smoke. The fact that Stark was bitten by Mary was not his choice. However, the more I watch, the more I see these two characters as representing two opposite methods of struggle: violence and compromise. Smoke is a person who always uses violence. When the white land seller showed contempt, he immediately showed the gun tucked in his belt. If anyone dared to steal his car, he would directly give them a few bullets. Even when his younger brother Sammy disobeyed, he used physical force. As Smoke himself said, money is power, and power is what helps people of color escape the yoke of slavery. He even taught a little girl to always know how to negotiate and not sell her labor cheaply. Smoke's pockets are full of dirty money, but he accepts that for a better life. Smoke is also a person who turns his back on traditional values. This is shown in his lack of belief in the protective charm his wife gave him, and his disbelief in spiritual forces. As mentioned, for him, people of color can only demand equality with guns and ammunition, making others fear them. Therefore, by the final act, even though he could have completely avoided the KKK mob, Smoke refused to run. He had bought that land. That land was his. Anyone who stepped on it would have to pay the price. Exchanging his own death for honor, Smoke represents a tough way of struggle: violence for violence, blood for blood. He lived proudly and chose a proud death for himself. In contrast, Stark can be considered to have compromised with the devil's deal. He and Mary joined Remick's Immortal Club, turning their backs on their family, and fleeing from the night the joint was attacked. Until the present day, many years later, Stark and Mary are still alive. In my opinion, Stark loves music and values artists, so the definition of freedom for him is perhaps being escaped from the shackles of society. The Jim Crow era did not allow him to marry a white woman, so running away was almost the only exit for this Romeo and Juliet couple. By becoming vampires, both will no longer be bound by society. They will be allowed to love each other for eternity. Violence or acceptance, toughness or compromise, the close bond between Smoke and Stark takes us through indescribable emotional levels. One pursued power and was ready to make dirty money, while the other was forever forbidden from seeing the sun. In the end, perhaps as the film title Sinners suggests, we are all sinners, dipping our hands in blood in exchange for a bit of a definition of freedom. Finally, after all the scenes of slaughter and oppression, Sinners does not forget to praise hope and the beauty of culture that deserves to be preserved. This is shown through the character Sammy and the excellent blues melodies he plays. Legend has it that many cultures record musicians so talented that their art tears the veil separating time and space. The music they play heals the souls of the community, but also attracts the attention of the devil. You all have likely heard stories like Robert Johnson, who was rumored to have sold his soul to the devil and a crossroads in exchange for extraordinary guitar-playing abilities. Sammy is also such a special player. The only thing is that this passion was not supported by his family. Why? Because at that time, blues was considered the music of the devil. In the first scene, we see Sammy standing in front of a church, and 4 giant triangular blocks surrounding the character predict that this is a dangerous place. Inside, 3 crosses are also arranged in a triangle, implying a conflict between Sammy and Protestantism. Indeed, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, mainstream art was often confined within gospels, with content praising God and salvation. But blues was too raw. It sang about alcohol, sex, suffering, and resistance. Therefore, Protestants believed this was the devil's act of luring sheep away from God. Right in the scene entering the church, we see Sammy's guitar placed next to the words, "In remembrance of me," the words of Jesus at the Last Supper, before being crucified. Sammy also had to read the first epistle to the Corinthians about temptation. If you continue to play music with the devil, it will follow you home. Sammy's father resolutely forbade his son. Sammy's music was forbidden by religion. Musicians of color were discriminated against. But Sammy kept playing. And in a moment, he truly tore the veil separating time and space. That night, at the entertainment joint, Sammy's sublime blues summoned everything from ancient tribes with traditional instruments to electric guitarists and DJ dancers who were not yet born. We even see the appearance of Chinese opera artists. Director Ryan Coogler said that whether it's an entertainment joint or a church, both are actually the same. Music and art both have the purpose of soul salvation. And in the moment everyone danced to Sammy's music, they found freedom. In the end, despite being hunted by vampires, despite only narrowly escaping death, and being seriously injured, Sammy still decided to hold his guitar firmly. He had to keep the blues, he had to keep the identity. There's a very good detail that Stark bluffed to Sammy that his guitar belonged to legendary guitarist Charlie Patton, but in reality, it was just an ordinary guitar left by Stark's father. It shows that material value is not important, but culture itself, although intangible, still has a powerful spread. In the closing scene, many years later, Sammy also meets Stark and Mary again. Hearing the music again, the 2 vampires are deeply moved. Inside them, the blues is still there, the roots are still there. No matter how harsh society is, or how heavy oppression is, as long as the identity remains, a community will never die. And Sammy, like his older brothers, has become a sinner. He betrayed the word of God to chase temptation, a type of temptation that has always haunted mankind, the desire to live a life of freedom. Thank you for following the video. Goodbye, and have fun watching the movie.